So yes, I did feel scammed when I got this bike. After a few months of riding it, I realized that it wasn't the bike that I was looking for, actually. It didn't have the aggressiveness, wildness, explosiveness that I was looking for. So just to make that point clear, our adventure bikes are meant to be ridden on the street. And why is that? Because adventure bikes are made for the average rider, and the average rider is going to be riding them on the road, on the street. If you want to have a big dirt bike, you're going to have to make a few modifications in order to get there. Yes, these are very capable, powerful bikes, but you don't get all that power right out of the dealership. And why is that? Because these bikes are going to have to comply with lots of regulations, emission laws, and so on. So even though they have very powerful engines, you're not going to get all that power right out of the box. An engine is an air pump. Air goes in, air goes out. You also put fuel in, you have spark, and you make power. It's as simple as that. So you have three variables. You have air, fuel, and spark. Two of them, fuel and spark, you can play around with, and air is going to depend on what modifications you have. How is your intake and how is your exhaust? So if you want more air and to make it flow more quickly, you're gonna have to play around with the parts around your bike. But to get the fuel and ignition timing right, you're gonna have to play with the ECU. And that's what ECU flashes are for. And I'm not recommending you right out of the line to get an ECU flash. I'm just saying that you would have to play around with your computer, with your bike's computer, if you want to play around with those two variables, fuel and ignition timing. So the main three options that you have here are an ECU flash. You could get an aftermarket ECU, or you could get a device that connects to your ECU and kind of remaps the way that the ECU is working, so it's not so intrusive. The option that I chose was the third one. I went with the Dynajet PowerVision 3, which allowed me to kind of get the right tune for the right parts that I had, which are the Akrapovic headers and the the airbox lid. It's part of the Dynajet package that I got. It's called the Stage 2 PowerVision 3 package for the Tenere 700. And it's pretty much an air filter lid, which allows the air to flow more efficiently into the airbox. And with that, the Akrapovic headers, the new tune that I got, oh man, this bike is now making some serious wildness. I don't want to say power, because you only get like, I don't know, on paper you get like 10% more horsepower, so 7 more horses for this engine. But that's not the reason why I got it. The only thing that I wanted to fix was the explosiveness right out of the throttle. So now I have that for sure. So I'm going to show you now what is that I did when I installed this Dynajet PowerVision 3 on this bike. So this is what I got from Dynajet. This is the PowerVision 3 for the Tenere 700, and it's a pretty small package and simple product actually. So as you can see, it's a pretty simple device. It's smaller than my iPhone, and the only thing that you have to do is plug it in to your bike and follow the instructions. As simple as that. This is where it goes. It's just the device and the cable with the adapter, and that's where it goes. Let me show you. This is where it goes. So you just plug it in directly and follow the instructions. As simple as that. And that's the air filter lid that I was telling you about. With those three options that I mentioned, the ECU flash, the aftermarket ECU, and the third device, I liked the third one better, the Dynajet option, because it allows me to have more control about what do I want the bike to do. With the ECU flash, you're stuck with taking the ECU out of your bike, sending it to I don't know where, wait for a few weeks, I guess, get the ECU back, install it, and that's that. You can't do any other modification. The second option, it's kind of similar to that. You could get an aftermarket ECU, you could have it tweaked to what you want, or you could have it tweaked at a dyno, and you could play around with that a little bit more, for sure. And the third option is the least intrusive one, I would say. It's just a little device, this size, not more, with a cable. You plug it in, you put the new map in according to the modifications that you have done, and you get more power. It also enables you to play around with your mapping. Yes, it has other features that I haven't used yet. I'm gonna do another review later. But with the DynoJet PowerVision 3, you could create your own map, you could tweak it around on the, I'm not gonna say on site when you are on the trail, but yes, you could get home, go into your laptop, tweak it around a little bit if you know what you're doing, or you could get some professionals' help. But you could play around with that. And that's the best option that I could get, I think. I didn't like sending the ECU to another company. I thought that getting an aftermarket ECU was gonna be a little bit too expensive, more complicated. And if I wanted to sell the bike later, I wasn't gonna get that investment back, actually. So with the DynoJet PowerVision 3, it's just a device. You don't have to leave it there plugged. But that's the option that I went with because it was the simplest one. And that's all. Well guys, now we are rolling. Let's go. So now I'm gonna be doing this downhill, and I'm gonna be kind of commenting what I've been feeling about this tune that I did to my bike. I got the, if I haven't mentioned it yet, I got the DynoJet PowerVision 3. But it's not only that I got the tune, I also, oh crap, I didn't, oh man, ooh man, that almost, I forgot to turn off my ABS. Oh crap. That was scary. That was indeed scary. That was indeed scary. Okay, let's go. What was it saying? Well, as I mentioned, I got the DynoJet PowerVision 3. But it's not only that I got the tune, I also got the I also got the air filter lid, which is kind of a, it's a piece of metal, technically speaking, that allows the air to have a better entrance when going into the engine, or well, when going into the airbox. So you have that air filter lid, and I also got the Akrapovic headers and exhaust from Camel Adventure. So I pretty much got the whole setup. If you think that the engine is well, technically speaking, it is an air pump, I improved the way that the air was flowing in and out of the engine. So the only thing missing then was to improve the how much fuel was going into the engine and the timing of the ignition. So that's what the tuning does. So that, because if you only do the mods, the air filter lid and the exhaust, of course you're going to improve the flow of your air pump, of your engine, your airflow. but you're gonna end up running with a leaner mix. So to compensate that, you need to add more fuel into the mix, and that's what the Dynojet Power Vision 3 does. And I'm guessing also that it also kind of changes the ignition timing, so that you could get a little bit of extra horsepower from your bike, and that's all it does. So don't expect this to be a new bike. Well, it feels like a new bike, but it's not a super radical change. It's an extra horsepower, but what you do feel though, it's that crispiness, that, I don't know if that's a word actually, you get a quicker throttle response, and that was what I was looking for. Most of us adventure bike riders think and say that, well, we know for sure that our adventure bikes are set up for driving on the street. And for driving on the street, of course, you have to oh man, comply with a lot of regulations, emissions. You are aiming, oh I didn't swear, but I almost went down there. Oh man. Oh. I love this bike, especially after the tune. So, what was I saying? Stock adventure bikes are set up for driving on the street. They have to comply with a lot of regulations, emissions. They are making them as safe as possible, so you don't want to be whiskey throttling your heavy adventure bike on the street. So that's why they limit, even though they have big powerful engines, they limit that horsepower or torque delivery so that they could be more user friendly on the street. But what if there are some riders like myself who want to get a little bit more out of their adventure bikes? So that's where these tuning and mods come in. Yeah, boy. So I can compare this change, this new tuning, to newer dirt bikes. As you already know, the Kawasaki, KTM, Honda, Yamaha, they all have now this mapping bottom button here at the handlebar. You can click a button and you'll get a second map. And what that map would do is that they would tame, or at least the only thing that it does is well, to explain it more easily, is, do you want your bike to be wild, or do you want your bike to be manageable and easy to ride and friendly? That's all it does. So the friendly map, it chooses and it prefers low in torque. So you have low in torque, you're able to control your bike at slower speeds, lower RPM. It's perfect for hard enduro in general, or even for beginners. But the wild map, it's where you get pretty much all the power, or almost all the power, out of your bike. So if you are an experienced rider and you want to get that wildness feeling out of your bike, you of course are going to be running the MX feeling map. But if you are a beginner and you want your bike to be more manageable, you're going to be preferring the low end torque map. Some public here, and that's all the difference it is. So going back to this Tenere 700 and the Dynajet Power Vision 3, or any kind of tune that you could do to your adventure bike, the difference, it's gonna be like the one I just explained. Your original tune, the tune that comes originally with the bike, it's gonna be like that low end torque mapping tune, however you want to call it. And this Dynajet or any other brand or ECU flash that you can get, it's gonna be like the MX feeling map. I'm not saying that your big heavy adventure bike is gonna feel like a dirt bike. No. I'm only saying that the difference is gonna be similar from your stock map and your new improved Dynajet or any other brand tuning map. So that's all there is. So you get this wilder ride out of your bike. And where is it noticeable the most? It's in this kind of terrain, where you have a lot of braking bumps, and you are pretty much, since you have this extra horsepower, you are spinning your rear wheel a lot more. So your bike, it's harder to control, but it's fun. If you think you're ready to give or go into the second step and go a little bit further with your adventure bike, yeah, this tune could be for you. It's gonna get that extra juice out of your bike. But there's always a but. What this tune does, because it's the same engine, you're only changing the tune, so don't expect the difference to be so wild. So, having said that, you're just moving the horsepower and torque curve. This tune would, what this tune is gonna do is gonna prefer the high revving horsepower than the low end torque. That's all what it's gonna do. So if you're revving your bike and you're racing it and you're driving fast, yes, you're gonna notice a difference for sure. But if you're riding this kind of technical switchbacks, well, I haven't done any switchbacks yet, but if you're riding this kind of terrain where it's technical, you have roots, rocks, braking bumps, it's gonna be harder to control, because especially if it's a heavy adventure bike like this one. This is not the heaviest, I know for sure, but it's a heavy bike. 200 pounds, no, 200 kilos, 400 pounds, a little bit more maybe. So even though it's harder to control, for those of us that are looking for something extra spicy, this is the perfect mix. This modifications, the airbox lid, the full line exhaust and the tune, and you come here and ride these technical trails, it's gonna require a little bit more effort to control those low RPMs, but for sure you're gonna enjoy the wildness that it's gonna bring out of this bike. It's just good. It's just perfect. I love it. I knew for sure from the first moment that I tried it on these trails that my rear wheel was spinning a lot more, and I had to control those RPMs just perfect so that I could control my bike. I'm using my clutch way more than before, but when you want to get that extra juice out of the engine, oh man, it just delivers. So yeah, let's continue. And you're gonna see now what I meant by that struggling with low end torque. We have a technical section coming up, and since this engine now prefers the, I'm always riding second gear by the way, since this engine always, it now prefers the high revving situations. When it comes to this technical rocky stuff, it has a tendency to stall. That's why you're using your clutch way more. You can hear the engine knocking there, almost stalling. And we continue. That wasn't so bad, actually. But now that the engine is picking up those RPMs, we can push. Oh man. By the way, I'm gonna be doing a review on this Moto's Tractionator Desert HT tires. These tires are just good. I love them. I'm covering the clutch. We have another technical section coming up here. Hopefully I don't stall it. What did I say? I'm in second gear though. I'm asking too much. First year. Oh shoot! So yeah, if you ride in first gear all the time, you're not gonna have an issue. But since I like to go a little bit faster and use my clutch and spin the rear tire, that's why I'm always riding on second gear and third. Barely using fourth though. But yeah, that's what I have to say about this tune on the trail. But let these clips show you how I enjoy them.
So what is that I got from this tune? It actually made this Tenere 700 feel more like my YC450 FX. It doesn't make it feel like a dirt bike, of course not, because it's still a 400-pound bike, but it does give you that playfulness that I was looking for, and that's why I enjoy so much doing this kind of trails now. It doesn't feel like a dirt bike, but it feels like a big dirt bike, and I love it.
So as a result, I'm going to propose two conclusions. For the road, yes, you get that quick explosiveness, you get more horsepower. I think the other thing that it does, it increases the rev limiter, and it also lowers the temperature at which the air fan is turned on. So you get those two other things, plus more horsepower. And when you're riding on the road, on the highway, yeah, you could definitely feel those changes. You feel that aggressiveness out of your bike, for sure. But when you take it off-road, it gets a little bit more tricky. It's not just about horsepower, but how you control that power. You prefer torque, low-end torque, above horsepower, high revving horsepower, because you're not going full throttle all the time when you're going off-road. You're going through technical sections, sometimes it's loose, there is a rock garden coming up, so there is no point of going full throttle all the time when you're doing off-road. You can't control your bike that way. So when you take this high revving horsepower machine off-roading, you're gonna get a little bit into trouble. And why is that? It's because when you're going into a technical section or you're doing a climb, this bike prefers to be in the higher RPM. So when you're trying to get out of a technical section, you're not revving it and you could easily stall it because this bike doesn't like low-end RPM. So if you're trying to control your bike on those technical uphills or rock gardens, you're gonna have to be using a lot more of your clutch. And that's why I feel like I'm gonna have to be doing a clutch change. Not soon, but sooner than I expected. So if you wanna get this ECU flash or aftermarket ECU or the Dynojet Power Vision 3 for your adventure bike, have that in mind. If you're doing a lot of off-road, you're gonna have to be using a lot more clutch in order to control that power.
I know this was a long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care.